Welcome back, anime fans, to Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast. John and Bridget back again, bringing you some more anime goodness. This week, we are talking about No Game, No Life.
Is that a good huh?
Yeah,
or a bad huh?
I think so.
It's a good huh.
But before we get into that, we're going to do some anime news. Pony Cannon began streaming a promotional video on Friday for the third season of Attack on Titan. What? The series will premiere July 22nd. Give it a Google, check it out. I'm sure so many people are anticipating the show. I haven't watched, we watched the second season, we finished that.
You were a little behind, but I know that only great things are coming for the show. And then last up with news, Ghibli Park is opening in 2022 in Tokyo. I gotta tell you, looking at the concept sketches that are up online, it looks absolutely beautiful. They have different areas of the park that are inspired by different movies. I am a #1 fan for Howl's Moving Castle. It's my favorite movie of all time, and that is a big cornerstone to this park. And then also Whisper of the Hearts. It's got their antique shop, and you really need to see these sketches for yourself. I'm going to share the link on Twitter and on Facebook. It's absolutely phenomenal. And now I know what year I want to go to Tokyo. So it's under works now, and it's not like a ride park. It's more like a
celebration.
It's more like a scenic replication of like props and towns and buildings. It's just something to behold.
It's a step inside the world.
Yeah, it's just like walking
Ghibli.
Into a Studio Ghibli movie, and it's just absolutely phenomenal.
I imagine they'll have some sort of rides and stuff. I don't think.
Yeah, actually, one of the pictures
without
has a clip of like a teacup ride, and it's got Gigi, the black cat from Kiki's Delivery Service, had their face on the cups. So I'm sure they have like cute, very family friendly rides. Maybe they'll throw in one coaster just to, get the thrillers in there. But it looks more scenic, and it looks, I gotta see this with my own eyes. So for you Studio Ghibli fans, which is everybody, please check it out.
Alright, so No Game, No Life is a light novel series by Yu Kamiya. Released back in 2012, the anime TV adaptation was produced by Madhouse and premiered between April and July of 2014. That ran for 12 episodes. A film adaptation of the 6th volume, No Game, No Life 0, premiered this past July. The light novel has also produced a manga and a spin-off manga as well. The series follows Sora and his younger sister Shiro, who make up the identity of Blank, an undefeated group of gamers. One day, they are challenged by the god of games to chess and are victorious. As a result, the god summons them to Disboard, a reality which revolves around games. Intent on maintaining their reputation as the undefeated gamers, Sora and Shiro plan to conquer the 16 ruling species and to usurp the god of games.
Dun, dun, dun. And I think you said the word of the week in there, which is sibling. And that is kyodai.
Alright, so what drew us to this anime? We have seen a few at this point that are based on the concept of being teleported into a game. Games are essentially the foundation of the show. So I think that's what, for me at least, was the draw. I have to admit, the design of the show is very appealing to the eye. Just the backgrounds, the way the world's drawn, and everything in that regard. So that's very appealing as well. The characters that you get, they're not cookie cutter, which I like. They're definitely ones that I will never mix up with others.
Yeah, they're distinguishable, but they have their flaws.
But I have to admit, I don't know if the characters are necessarily likable. They kind of play with everyone's emotions way too much.
They do, yeah.
They're
a bit of a tease.
They're both, the main two characters, Sora and Shiro, they're both introverts, and they're kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely crazy, actually. They're definitely crazy.
I think there are people that you don't want to be their friends because you're going to be ridiculed, but you want to root for them because what they do with their skills is for the greater good, for helping the people and what's left of them, humanity. So they are good. They're a little twisted. They're chaotic good? Is that right?
I guess there's a chaotic good. Sure, why not? So the idea is that these two kids, essentially, in their prepubescent and teenage years, they're amazing at video games. They cannot be stopped. They never lose. It is a reputation they have. They play 20 hours straight at times. Right. They don't go out. They don't experience what the world has to offer.
Wait, we have an earlier word of the week that we can use here. They're neats. So they're not in education. They're not in any job. They are jobless, but they live on like ramen cups and bare bones to live their lives
parents,
this way.
take care of them or left them some kind of money, because I don't understand how they would actually live in this scenario. Like,
well,
it doesn't make
we
sense.
say all the time that too many shows just have parents absent from the show at all with no explanation, and it just doesn't make sense.
Well, for
the
this
stepsister
show,
is 11 years old.
For this show, it kind of makes sense, though, because you only get really one episode where they're not in the fantasy world.
Right.
So
they're just
if the parents aren't drawn into the world, then
but that's
there's no
just
point in
it.
having
This
them in.
11-year-old is living with her 16-year-old brother on bare bones, poor nutrition, just instant food, and she's not going to school. She's there playing games with him. So yeah, where's the parents? So I mean, that's not realistic, but it's really not the point. I mean, even if they were involved, they got sucked into another world. But it's not just games though. They are geniuses, and together they use it for what they love, video games. But you see later on in the show, like, their knowledge is beyond games. Like, they have a nice, solid understanding of the structure of the earth, of science, and
they're not stupid. That's for sure.
Pretty amazing.
They are crazy because they'll take ridiculous chances, but they're not stupid. They're very calculating.
Yeah. They
weigh their options, which is a cool. Like, I always liked the characters that weren't necessarily super strong, but they were super smart.
Yeah.
There's another show, nothing like this, but Yu Yu Hakusho is like an older show, and it's a very classic shonen. There's a character, Kurama, and he is kind of the tactician of the group, and he was always my favorite character, even though he's not like the main character.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like when it's not necessarily about physical ability.
Brain
it's
over brawn,
people. Yes, it's about brains.
All right, so before we get into what happens in Disboard, first thing that happens when they get sucked in there is the god,
Tet.
Tet, he tells them 10 pledges that they must abide by.
I actually thought this was a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Like, rules that can be broken to a degree, but must be followed. The first rule is all murder, war, and robbery is forbidden in this world. What a rule!
Yeah.
If we can only do that in the real
only.
world. All conflict in this world must be resolved through games. Also, really cool idea. I would love to just be like, you get into like an accident, no one knows who's at fault, and you're just like, all right, let's play some chess. Let's figure out what's going on. Who's going to happen.
The crap out of this one.
The third rule is in games, each player will bet something that they agree is of equal value, which I think is a cool concept. Like, you can't, it's equivalent exchange. The fourth rule, as long as it doesn't violate Pledge 3, anything may be bet and any game may be played.
And then we have number 5, the challenged party has the right to decide the rules of the game. So you can challenge someone, but they pick the game.
This rule I think I have the most issue with, because games don't operate how they would in the real world, and I was kind of hoping that they would. Like, there's a huge fantasy aspect to this show,
right?
But I was kind of hoping whatever games they had or would have a greater foothold in reality, because I think it'd be more interesting to see like someone
like the Wizard's
great at
chess,
those
for
games.
instance.
Yeah.
Like, it started out as a game of chess, but then there was a lot of other mythical factors to it. But I mean, I guess you can argue that a video game could be that way.
Yeah,
there are
I guess
rules
that's
in video
fair.
games that can't happen in the real world. So then we have number 6: any bets made in accordance with the pledge must be upheld. So even if it's you must fall in love with me, for instance, which actually does come up in the show, the person actually falls in love with them against their will if they lose.
The idea that there's this sort of grand magic that upholds these rules.
Yeah. And then we have number 7, conflicts between groups will be conducted by designated representatives with absolute authority.
So you have a ref.
Yeah,
you have
there's
a
a
ref
ref
who you cannot argue their decision.
Yeah, it's usually someone like within the government, someone up high just oversees it.
Number 8, being caught cheating during a game is grounds for instant loss. Now,
being caught
yes,
cheating.
So that is the key. You can cheat, which I thought was odd, considering how all the other rules sort of are definitive.
Right.
Like the world almost wants you to cheat. It encourages people to be so good, or to be good enough to cheat, like essentially a poker face. Like, it encourages people to have their poker face and bluff, which I thought was interesting. In the name of God, the previous rules may never be changed, and that is number 9. That's an interesting one. I don't know if we really had too much interaction with that rule, so to say.
Maybe because the rule itself negates any attempt to change it, but I guess so that there's no game out there. There's no high stakes that could be like, well, I'm trying to change number 5 or number 6. Like, just the god's like, nope, these are the rules.
And then the last one, let's all have fun and play together. Huzzah!
Yeah. I love that.
These are created by Tet.
Which, by the way, he looks like a kid.
Yes,
and
he is
a
a kid
at heart. I love that. I think that Tet should come over to our side a little and help out.
That'd be something. So there's actually a surprisingly rich history to this world, Disboard. There was constant war in Disboard between the old gods and the other races. And Tet, who was someone who didn't want to be involved in war, sat back from it. Mm-hmm. And then when everyone was just exhausted, run down, nothing left, he comes in and he's just like, I'm taking over. My power is now absolute. And these are the new rules. So you can no longer war against each other. It makes me angry because we don't have people in the world, or we don't have enough people in the world to come in and say, look, we need to stop this. You're being ridiculous. You shouldn't have power. Because people in power don't want to give up power. Right? Yeah. So that's just the way it is. But I thought, I love the concept of the show. The execution of the show is, I'm a little iffy on some because there's a lot of fan service.
Unnecessary amount of fan service.
Unnecessary fan. No, there are points when it's funny. It easily goes over that threshold of funny to over the top irritating.
Okay. And we need to talk about this for a minute. So again, the two main characters are 16 and 11. So it's not like we have two of ripe age, in their prime, attractive siblings, and they're just teasing with fan service, ooh, they're flirting with each other. No, this is a very young girl. They do have this great bond. They actually get separation anxiety when they're away from each other, and they have a funny way of showing it, but then they spoil it with this very adult fan service where the girl's naked, there's really nothing much covering her. But this is a very young girl, and it's just not necessary.
It's almost entirely female characters as far as main characters. There are points where they are literally just standing there naked, and they're drawn with no nipples, and because they're drawn no nipples,
it's okay to show them without clothing, right?
Nudity.
But it's basically saying that you should be looking at someone this age this way, and it's not okay.
This is a young boy's fantasy, honestly.
Right. But then, the No Game No Life Zero, the movie does eliminate that, and it's better for it. So
which we'll definitely talk about.
We're going to cover in the future, absolutely.
So as we said, there's an overabundance of the anime tropes,
yeah,
where the characters are sort of unbeatable, but they have a ridiculous weakness.
Yeah,
it's
when they were separated,
the outside
it was so
world
funny.
Or the separation, and then you have the nudity and the shower scenes, which is comes up way too often in the show.
It happened in the second episode, and you were like, "I thought you said this was a good show. What is happening?" I'm like, "It is. Get past it."
Yeah, it doesn't. It jumps right into that too, which I thought was kind of shocking. It doesn't give you a warm up to it. We sound like we're bashing the show. I actually really like this show.
Oh no,
it took me a little time to sort of get on board because of all the tropes and because of the
it takes away from the good stuff,
fan service. But the concept behind it I thought was really cool, and I love the idea of a show based on games. My issue with the games are that they don't follow typical rules. They have their own rules to a degree.
These characters are unbeatable, and we've talked in our other episodes before about how if you make a character unbeatable, it's a bad thing because the character is predictable. They're going to win. Like in The Irregular at Magic High, the main character in that show, he's always winning. He's just, it's not interesting because of that. In this show, they have a different formula and it works really well. So what keeps us enthralled is not are they going to win, but how they're going to win. We know they're going to win because the stakes are just too high. But when they win, they go into an explanation about how they plan this from the very beginning, this grand scheme, and how they use their brains to trick the opponents. And each time, it's really interesting to listen to. And you get to see just how vast their knowledge is. And, so that's why it works so well. Even though these characters are unbeatable, except for their separation anxiety, it's still interesting to watch.
And the art style of the show, as we mentioned earlier, is insane. That's Tammy, if everyone remembers. The pain-in-the-ass little cat.
We've said in the past, unbeatable characters is no, but this show is the exception. And another thing you said earlier, the art style. I want to talk about the art style. So.
It's such a colorful show.
I've heard people say, I think I saw new colors when I watched this show. It was just so bright, so colorful. But what is different about this show, it's not the colors, it's the outlines, the drawings themselves are also color. Usually we have the black or dark brown outlines to illustrate the characters, and then it's filled in. But in this show, everything is a different color. And even the lines of the characters change color. It's all blended, and it's just a big pop of wow. It was just amazing to watch. It was just so beautifully done. I remember when we talked about Grave of the Fireflies, the studio used dark brown for the outline of the characters and had never been done before. They just wanted that dark, like a softer feel to the characters. And it's the first time they switched it up from black. And now here, generations later, we just have a rainbow outlining each character. And it's really wonderful to look at. As an artist myself, I really appreciate it.
Tet presumably brings them here to ensure that Imanade, the human race within this world, is taken care of. Sora and Shiro quickly become the king and queen of these people. It just so happens that there's a contest going on. The last king passed away, and his last decree was that the person who wins all games in the region will become the next king or queen. And they quickly realize how to adapt and how to work the system. It just shows how very smart they are.
And they even got their way. They're like, no, there can only be one king. Sorry. So they're like, I guess we're going to have a match between us to decide. They kept it a tie for so long, days, that they finally gave in and said, fine, you can both be king. And they're like, yay. And they have matching crowns on them.
They have other races as well. We haven't met all of them, but they have elves, and that's very typical to like any other elf that we've seen. Werebeasts, which essentially are animal people.
Yeah, so if you've played Terra, the online MMORPG, there is a class of that. They're called Elans, and that's what my character is. She has fox ears and a tail. When Sora found out that there was werebeasts, he was like, yep, we're conquering them first. I need some weregirls. Of course, see, that part was funny.
There's the Flugel, which are essentially almost like angel-like creatures with incredible magic, and then the old gods, which is that of Tet.
Yeah. So
now, we haven't met all of them. I hope that in the movie we'll get to see some more, which I think will be fun. But it really comes down to their quest. So at first they decide, all right, well, we're going to be king and queen of Imanade. And then we're going to conquer the world. And then we're going to defeat Tet and we're going to become gods. And it's so beyond ridiculous.
But they can pull it off.
They can pull it off, which bugs me a little bit, to your detriment, what you said earlier, the fact it's not that we know they're going to win, but it's how they're going to win. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of hope they get to Tet and they don't beat them.
I actually think that's what it'll come to, because to just let them just keep rising to the top with no obstacles at all, I think it would just be too easy.
I think they need to be beaten. I think they need to realize
you get the world, you don't get to be gods. Let's settle for that.
And be okay with it, because these two main characters have issues. There's no doubt about it. A loss to a regular person would break them, but a loss to a god, I think
they'll come to terms acceptable. With it. But yeah, for those who haven't seen the movie, No Game, No Life Zero, it takes place before the events of the show. So obviously it doesn't continue their reign, but I do hope that they continue the show or create another follow-up show so we can see them, continue on their quests. Maybe they'll take over the other countries and see what happens. It's definitely a show that deserves another season.
If you got sucked into a game world like this, what would be your game of choice? If you could bring like a game from our world to play, and it has to be a competitive game, it can't be something like a
Final Fantasy,
an MMO or something like that.
I wanted it to be Final Fantasy 14.
No, it has to be some like kind of competitive board or card game like thing.
Mario Kart?
Yeah, I guess they have. You know what? They do have video games in the show, so that's fair. A Mario Kart-esque game.
They would go down. I'm just saying.
No, come on, Everett. You're great, but you're only second to me.
We are actually tied right now in our tournament for Mario Kart, and it's only because we haven't played a lot of Double Dash, because you're bad at it.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, I guess I'm not doing later.
Well, we're gonna have to get a Switch. We'll get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and that'll be the definitive game to decide.
No, know, because that's the one that you're better at. That's sneaky.
It's not sneaky.
It's sneaky.
No,
Double Dash in Mario Kart 64. The classics are mine.
Please, Mario Kart 64 is mine.
No, it's not. Did you see the board?
I'm pretty sure we're tied on that one.
No, it's not. It's not. All right, so we have a tournament going on with the Mario Kart games, all the different consoles except for the very first one, the Super Nintendo. But we have a whole chart of them, and we tally off. And we used to do it on Saturdays, but we kind of fell off of that for a while. So I think that it's time to decide who the real victor is.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll let you know, guys. Outside of the main two characters, I would say that the other characters are kind of cookie cutter. Like, I won't ever forget what these two characters, Sora and Shiro, look like. But the other ones I could see getting mixed into other types of shows and be
I can
forgetting
see
what their
that.
names are. Which I think is a good thing. You don't want your main characters to be brushed aside by the side characters.
Yeah, you want them to stand out.
Anyway, I enjoy the show. I think it's a little over the top at times.
I feel so bad for Stephanie. So
Stephanie
Stephanie,
Doda.
she was the granddaughter of the previous king, and she fought so hard in the tournament to succeed her grandfather, as she would have if his grandfather hadn't come up this tournament to, name the successor. She was supposed to be the next ruler, but she's very soft. She's got a very kind heart. She is smart in her own way, but she's not the best gamer. So she's losing, and it's because one of her opponents is cheating and she can't pick up on it. So this poor girl becomes like the first victim of the two main characters. I mean, they're friends, but they tease her. And like in a couple little games, they got her to be their pet dog for a day, and she would sit and bark whenever they commanded. It's just stuff like that. I'm just like, poor Stephanie. This poor little side character. Like I said, I would never want to be friends with these two main characters, but I'm rooting for them, but just don't ever meet me.
They would be terrible
They would be
friends.
awful. But yeah, so that is our take on No Game, No Life, and, obviously it's a big hit, and
It's been around for a while, so you can check that out on Crunchyroll.
it's on Crunchyroll. It's only in Japanese. I think that Crunchyroll needs to get more sub and dub options like Funimation has. You can't really blame Crunchyroll because most of the shows they have are new, like just coming out new or in the last couple of years. So they didn't, the studios haven't come up with English voice actors yet. But like, then you have Funimation. They just, if it's available, they offer it. It's a nice thing to have. But yeah, so this one's only in Japanese, but, the voice actors did a great job. So don't forget, you can email us at gitcanime@gmail.com. You can find all of our social media links. You can find all of our streaming links on our website at gitcanime.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we have Google Play. We have iTunes, we have YouTube. We highly recommend that you get on YouTube as well because we have a lot of fun video projects coming up, and there's one already on there. So actually, while you're listening to this episode, we're going to be at the Cherry Blossom Festival in the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, and a fun YouTube project will follow that. So definitely get on our YouTube page. You can find the link on our website and subscribe so you can see those awesome projects.
Wherever you check us out, iTunes or Google Play, rate and review us, guys. We would really appreciate an honest review. We always want to improve the show, and it helps us get out there and get more people listening.
Yeah, the more reviews, the more people get to hear our show. So that would be a big help. And if you want to support our podcast, check out our Patreon page because you can see the awesome perks. If you subscribe on one of our tiers and become part of our team, you get some really awesome rewards.
All right. Well, thank you to Anthony for our theme song, and thank you to you guys for listening.
I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Yeah.